Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at how to stay aligned with your desires even when life throws, those inevitable curveballs.
Yeah.
We've got two really cool sources to help us with this from the Living Simply Zen podcast. We've
Yeah.
got both the episode outline and the blog post, and they both have the same title, Staying in Alignment, Manifestation Through Tough Times.
Yeah. You know what I found really intriguing about these sources is the way they blend, the Zen philosophy with practical strategies. They even touch on a bit of the science behind manifestation.
Yeah, that's totally what caught my eye too, is this idea of how can we find that Zen-like calm in the middle of all the chaos
Yeah.
while still actively working towards our goals? It's kind of a paradox, right?
Yeah.
So let's start by unpacking this whole idea of alignment. What does it actually mean in this context of manifestation?
Yeah. Well, I think a good way to think about it is alignment is this state of harmony between your thoughts, your emotions,
Nice.
your actions. Like getting them all on the same page, all pointing toward the reality you want to create. It's almost like tuning a radio dial, to perfectly capture your favorite station. So it's crystal clear, no static.
Okay, that analogy makes sense. So, let's say I'm trying to manifest a new job that aligns with my passions. Does that mean I need to be walking around with this permanent grin and ignoring any stress or doubts that pop up?
Not at all. The sources, they actually emphasize that alignment. It doesn't require you to be blissed out 24/7.
Yeah.
It's not about, denying the full spectrum of human emotion.
Okay.
Like life happens, challenges arise.
Yeah.
Remember that unexpected bill we talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, that's a perfect example
Yeah.
of how life kind of tests our alignment.
Yeah.
So instead of, spiraling into this pit of despair and, feeling like a manifestation failure, true alignment is about recognizing that bump in the road,
Yeah.
Acknowledging the stress it triggers, and then consciously choosing to shift your perspective. You're reminding yourself of your goals. You're reaffirming your trust in the process, and you're continuing to take action even when it feels tough.
So it's more about course correction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Than staying on this perfectly straight path.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Speaking of course correction, there was this part in the source material that mentioned the science behind all this.
Oh, yeah.
And I was kind of intrigued by that because, we're talking about Zen and manifestation, and then it's science.
Right.
How does that all fit together?
Well, so the source material, it actually touches on this idea of the law of attraction, which basically suggests that, we attract experiences that vibrate at the same frequency as our dominant thoughts and emotions.
Okay.
So it gets into energy and vibration, this idea that attracts.
Okay, I've heard of the law of attraction, but I don't know, sometimes it feels a little too woo-woo to me.
Yeah. Right.
Does the source material address that at all? Does it give any kind of concrete examples or evidence or...
Well, they share this compelling anecdote
Okay.
about this entrepreneur who, used these principles of the law of attraction to manifest incredible success in their business.
Okay.
And, they don't really dive deep into any scientific studies, but they make this really important point about the power of our subconscious mind, which, let's face it, science is still unraveling the mysteries of the subconscious.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not about suppressing those negative vibes entirely, but it's more about, acknowledging them, processing them, and then just consciously choosing to shift our focus towards the positive.
That's the essence of it. It ties so beautifully into those Zen principles of mindfulness and non-judgment. It's about observing our thoughts and emotions, without getting swept away by them.
Yeah.
And you know what this ability to observe without judgment is? It's actually a key factor in why we sometimes fall out of alignment in the first place.
So you're saying getting out of alignment is actually a natural part of being human.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're all human.
Right.
Which means we're wired for a full spectrum of experiences.
Okay.
Stress, self-doubt, those pesky external circumstances that seem to love throwing wrenches into our plans.
Yes.
It's all part of the game.
Right.
The source material, it actually lists some of these common culprits, that kind of knock us off. Everything from, information overload and comparison traps.
Oh, yeah.
To relationship issues and just, plain old exhaustion.
Yeah. So if falling out of alignment is practically inevitable,
Yeah.
how do we even recognize that it's happening?
Yeah.
What are the signs that our radio dial is no longer tuned to the right frequency?
That's where things get really interesting, and that's what we're going to dive into next.
Okay.
The sources, they offer a set of practical Zen techniques
Okay.
that can help us identify those misalignment red flags
Mm-hmm.
and, more importantly, provide a clear roadmap for getting back on track.
Okay, I'm all ears. I'm ready to upgrade my alignment toolkit and learn some strategies for navigating those inevitable bumps in the road.
Well, get ready for a fascinating blend of inner work and outer action because these techniques cover both.
Okay.
We're going to be exploring everything from, gratitude practices and affirmations to visualizations and aligned action.
Okay.
And, we'll go beyond just listing them. We're really going to unpack the WHY behind each technique, how it works on a deeper level,
Yeah.
connecting it back to those core Zen principles.
That's what I love about this deep dive.
Yeah.
It's not just about, what to do, but understanding the how and the whys, like getting a masterclass in conscious creation.
Exactly.
But, before we jump into those techniques, I think it's good to just take a little pause here.
Yeah, good idea.
Let ourselves digest everything we've uncovered so far. It's a lot to take in.
It is.
And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page before we move on to those practical strategies.
Excellent point. These concepts, they're potent,
Yeah.
and absorbing them fully is going to make those practical strategies, even more effective.
Right.
So stay tuned, folks, because part 2 of our deep dive, that's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
We'll be back soon with those actionable insights that you can start using right away to realign with your desires and create the life you truly want.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right. So welcome back to our deep dive into staying aligned.
Yes.
We've already covered so much ground, but now I think it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, let's do it.
Those practical Zen techniques that can help us, get back on track when we feel out of sync.
Yeah. Let's shift our focus, from understanding alignment to really mastering the art of realignment.
Okay.
The sources offer this fascinating toolkit for navigating those inevitable bumps in the road, and I'm really excited to kind of unpack those with you.
Yeah, I'm all in ears. I've, dabbled in some of these techniques before, but I don't know, sometimes it feels like I'm just going through the motions. And I'm ready to dive a little deeper and really understand how they work on a more fundamental level.
I hear you, and that's why, we're going to go beyond those surface level explanations and really connect these practices back to, those core Zen principles.
Okay.
And speaking of core principles, let's start with a technique that might seem deceptively simple. Gratitude.
Gratitude. It's one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot these days.
It is.
But isn't it a bit, cliche? I mean,
Right.
how can simply listing things we're grateful for actually shift our alignment?
It might sound cliche, but trust me, the impact of gratitude is profound.
Okay.
And it's not just about, feeling good. There's a deeper mechanism at play here.
Okay.
The sources, they highlight that gratitude. It shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have.
Okay.
So it moves us out of that scarcity mindset and tunes us into the abundance that's already present in our lives.
So instead of dwelling on what's missing,
Exactly.
we're intentionally directing our attention to the good stuff. I can see how that could be a really powerful mental reset. But how does gratitude tie into those Zen principles you mentioned?
That's where it gets really interesting. Zen philosophy,
Mm.
it emphasizes present moment awareness.
Mm.
And guess what gratitude is all about? Appreciating the now.
Yeah.
Savoring those simple joys that often go unnoticed when we're so caught up in, the whirlwind of our thoughts and to-do lists.
That's a great point. I've
Mm.
definitely noticed that when I'm practicing gratitude, my mind feels calmer,
Mm.
more grounded. It's like I'm shifting out of that constant state of striving
Yeah,
and allowing myself to just be.
exactly. And that shift in perspective,
Yeah.
it's not just mental, it affects our energy.
Okay.
When we focus on what we're grateful for, we raise our vibration,
Okay.
making us more magnetic to the things we want to manifest.
Oh, I'm starting to see how this all ties together, but let's be real, practicing gratitude isn't always easy, especially, when life feels chaotic and stressful. Any tips on how to cultivate gratitude, even when we're not feeling particularly grateful?
Yeah, well, the sources suggest starting small.
Okay.
Instead of, aiming for this grand gesture of gratitude, try incorporating a simple practice into your daily routine. Write down 3 things you're grateful for each day. It could be as basic as a good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
A warm, sunny day, a meaningful conversation with a friend.
I like that idea. It's like a mini mindset recalibration each day.
Exactly.
But what about when we're hit with those bigger challenges, those moments where gratitude feels impossible?
Yeah.
The sources mention the power of nature. Is that what you're going to tell me about?
You read my mind. It's almost like nature is calling us back to our center, back to that state of natural alignment.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that pull before, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or just kind of out of sorts, like a walk in the woods or even just sitting under a tree. It can work wonders.
Exactly. The sources emphasize that nature has this incredible ability to ground and realign us.
Hmm.
Just being in nature, it helps us disconnect from the mental chatter, the worries, the to-do lists, and reconnect with something larger than ourselves.
It's interesting because we were talking about vibration earlier.
Yeah.
If our thoughts and feelings emit a frequency, then nature must be vibrating at a pretty high level.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason why we feel so refreshed and revitalized after spending time outdoors.
That's a brilliant observation. And, many spiritual traditions, they see nature as this source of, pure positive energy.
Yeah.
So by immersing ourselves in nature, we're tapping into that frequency and raising our own vibration.
Okay, I'm officially adding nature time to my daily alignment routine. I'm starting to see how all these techniques weave together to create this, like, tapestry of support.
I love that.
Speaking of support, what about the support that we give ourselves through our own words?
Yes.
I think it's time we talked about affirmations.
Ah, yes, affirmations.
Yeah. A classic tool for shifting our mindset
It is.
and aligning with our desires. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with affirmations.
Oh, really?
I've tried them before, but I often feel a bit silly repeating these positive statements that I don't fully believe.
Right.
It feels forced.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
It can feel awkward at first,
Right.
especially, if we're affirming something that feels far from our current reality.
Right.
But here's the key. The power of affirmations
Yeah.
lies in consistency and repetition.
So even if I don't believe every word I'm saying, the act of repeating it regularly can start to reprogram my subconscious mind.
Precisely, think of it like planting a seed in fertile ground.
Yeah.
Even if that seed is tiny, with consistent nurturing, it can sprout and grow into this mighty tree.
Okay, so it's not about like instantly believing every affirmation,
Right.
but it's about consistently exposing our minds to a new way of thinking, a new way of perceiving ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. And the source material, it offers some helpful examples of affirmations you can use. Things like, I am worthy of my desires, or I trust that everything is working out for my highest good.
Hmm.
Choose affirmations that resonate with you and your goals.
I'm drawn to that one about trusting that things are working out.
Yeah.
That's something I definitely need to work on. But what about taking action?
Yeah.
Is there a role for that in all of this alignment stuff?
Absolutely. In fact, the sources, they emphasize the importance of aligned action.
Okay.
It's not enough to simply, think positive thoughts and sit around waiting for miracles to happen.
Right.
We need to put those intentions into motion.
So it's not just any action, it's like intentional action
Yes.
that's in harmony with what we want to manifest.
Yes, and this is where those Zen principles of mindfulness and intention come into play again.
Okay.
The sources suggest taking small aligned steps each day. It could be updating your resume if you're looking for a new job, researching healthy recipes,
Yeah.
If you're focused on improving your well-being,
Right.
dedicating 15 minutes to working on a creative project that lights you up.
Yeah, I love that. I find it so much easier to stay motivated when I break down like big, overwhelming goals into those smaller, more manageable actions.
And that's another key benefit of aligned action. It creates momentum
Okay.
and reinforces our alignment. So the more aligned actions we take, the more aligned we feel, and the easier it becomes to stay on track.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
It is a positive feedback loop. I like that.
Yeah, speaking of sustainable, I'm curious about how we deal with those like inevitable negative emotions
Right.
that pop up along the way. I mean, we're not robots.
Yeah.
We can't be positive all the time.
That's so true. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up.
Yeah.
They think that manifestation is about suppressing negative emotions or pretending that they don't exist.
Right.
But the sources,
Yeah.
make it clear that those negative emotions, they are a natural part of life.
So it's not about ignoring or resisting those feelings,
Right.
but about acknowledging them and processing them in a healthy way.
Exactly. And that's where Zen's principles of acceptance and non-judgment come into play again.
Okay.
The sources suggest, various techniques for working with those difficult emotions, journaling, talking to a trusted friend or therapist movement, creative expression, even just, allowing yourself to cry if you need to.
Yeah.
It's about creating space for all of our emotions, both the light and the shadow.
It feels like we're uncovering a theme here.
Yeah.
It's not about like forcing ourselves to feel a certain way,
Right.
but about creating space for that full spectrum of human emotions.
Yes. And it's about recognizing that those so-called negative emotions, they often carry valuable information.
Okay.
They might be signaling that something needs to change or that we need to set healthier boundaries.
I like that reframing.
Yeah.
It takes away some of the shame and the judgment around having those difficult emotions. We're like, okay, I'm starting to feel like I'm building a pretty robust alignment toolkit here.
Also,
But there's one more technique I'm curious about: visualization. Where does that fit into all of this?
visualization. It's a powerful technique for aligning our energy with our desired outcomes. It's about using the power of our imagination to create this mental blueprint of the reality we want to experience.
It's like daydreaming with a purpose.
Yeah.
But isn't that just wishful thinking?
It's more than just wishful thinking. When we vividly imagine ourselves already living the life we desire, engaging all of our senses in the process,
Mm-hmm.
we're sending a powerful signal to our subconscious mind.
Okay.
We're essentially telling our subconscious, this is what we're aiming for, make it happen.
Okay, so it's about imprinting that desired outcome into our subconscious and letting it work its magic behind the scenes. I can see how that would amplify the power of all the other techniques we've discussed.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, staying motivated and inspired isn't always easy,
Right.
especially when we're faced with challenges or setbacks. What happens when those doubts start creeping in and we feel like giving up?
That's a great question, and it's something that the sources address directly. They offer a set of strategies for staying aligned and inspired, even when the going gets tough.
Okay.
And believe it or not, it all starts with remembering our WHY.
Our WHY. You mean like the reason behind our goals, the
Exactly.
deeper meaning and purpose
Yeah.
that's driving us forward?
When we connect with our WHY, we tap into this powerful source of motivation.
Yeah.
It reminds us why we embarked on this journey in the first place, and it helps us stay focused on that long-term vision, even when we encounter those short-term obstacles.
Okay, but sometimes even a strong WHY isn't enough to keep those doubts at bay.
Right.
What about those moments where we feel like we're not making any progress?
That's where I usually struggle.
Yeah, it's easy to get discouraged when we don't see those immediate results.
That's why the sources emphasize the importance of celebrating small wins.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging and appreciating every step, we take towards our goals, no matter how small it might seem.
So it's not just about focusing on the grand finale, but about recognizing and celebrating the progress we're making along the way.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off and allows us to, enjoy the journey.
I like that, but let's be real. Sometimes we mess up, we fall off track.
We do.
We make choices that don't align with our goals. How do we deal with those moments of self-sabotage or perceived failure?
That's where the most important tool in our alignment toolkit comes in self-compassion.
Okay.
The sources remind us that manifestation is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
And, there will be ups and downs along the way.
So instead of beating ourselves up when we stumble,
Yeah.
it's about treating ourselves with kindness and understanding, recognizing that we're doing the best we can
Exactly.
with the resources we have.
Love this perspective. It takes the pressure off,
Yeah.
and it makes the whole process feel more sustainable.
It's self-compassion is deeply aligned with Zen's principles of acceptance and non-judgment. It's about recognizing that we're all perfectly imperfect beings, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the messiness of the human experience without losing sight of our inherent worthiness.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'm feeling so much more empowered to navigate this whole alignment thing.
Awesome.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious about one last thing. The sources mention that the universe is always working with us,
Yes.
even when it doesn't feel like it. What does that even mean, and how can we trust that when we're in the thick of challenges?
That's a powerful question, and it's one that takes us to a deeper level of understanding. It suggests that there's a force beyond ourselves that's supporting our journey, orchestrating events and guiding us towards our highest good, even when we can't see the evidence.
Okay.
So it's about having faith in the unseen.
Yeah.
Trusting that there's a bigger plan unfolding, even when we feel lost or confused.
I think that's a perfect place to pause for now.
Yeah, good idea.
We've covered a lot of ground, and I want to give our listeners time to absorb these ideas before we move on to exploring that concept of, trusting the universe.
Yes.
So stay tuned for part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll delve into the mysteries of synchronicity, intuition, and the subtle ways in which the universe communicates with us.
I can't wait to unpack those mysteries with you.
Yeah.
Until then, remember to practice those alignment techniques. Be kind to yourselves and stay open to the possibility that, you are always supported, always guided, and always loved.
Welcome back to our deep dive into staying aligned. We've explored what alignment means, how to recognize when we veered off course, and a whole toolkit of techniques, for getting back on track.
Right.
But we ended part two with a pretty profound question. How can we trust that the universe is working with us even when things feel, chaotic and uncertain?
Yeah.
It's a concept that requires a bit of a leap of faith, right?
It's interesting you use that phrase, leap of faith, because that's often what it feels like when we step into this level of understanding.
Yeah.
It's about surrendering to something larger than ourselves. Trusting that there's a grand design, even when we can't see the full picture.
The source material doesn't give us concrete answers about what that grand design, might be, but it does encourage us to be open to the possibility that we're not alone in this journey. It's like
Right.
having this invisible support system cheering us on behind the scenes.
Yes, and that support system isn't just metaphorical. It's woven into the very fabric of reality.
Mm-hmm.
The sources touch upon this concept of interconnectedness,
Okay.
suggesting that everything in the universe is linked in this delicate web of energy.
Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that idea, but how do we actually access that support system?
Yeah.
How do we cultivate trust in the universe when we're, facing those challenges and setbacks?
One of the most powerful ways to strengthen that trust is to pay attention to the subtle ways in which the universe communicates with us.
Okay.
The sources call these signs and synchronicities.
Signs and synchronicities, I've heard those terms before, but they've always felt a bit mystical and vague. Right.
Can you give me some concrete examples, like what kind of signs should we be looking for?
It could be anything from a chance encounter with someone who offers exactly the guidance you need,
Okay.
to a song on the radio that seems to perfectly reflect your current emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a book falling off a shelf and opening to a page with the exact message you need to hear,
Okay.
or an unexpected opportunity that appears seemingly out of nowhere.
So it's about noticing those seemingly coincidental events that might actually be clues from the universe guiding us towards, our highest path.
Exactly.
It reminds me of that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It's like the universe is always sending us guidance, but we need to be receptive to receiving it.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And the more we pay attention to these signs, the more we tune into that subtle frequency of guidance, the stronger our trust in the universe's support becomes.
I love that analogy, tuning into a frequency of guidance.
It makes it feel less mystical and more like we're actively participating in this cosmic dance. But what about those times when we feel completely lost and disconnected?
Right.
What if we're not seeing any signs or synchronicities? Does that mean the universe has abandoned us?
Not at all. The sources remind us that even in those moments of darkness,
Mm.
even when we feel alone and uncertain, the universe is still working behind the scenes.
Hmm.
It might not always be evident, but the support is always there.
So it's about trusting the process even when we don't understand it.
Yeah.
It's about having faith that something bigger is unfolding even when it feels like everything is falling apart.
Exactly. It's about surrendering to the grand design,
Hmm.
knowing that we're not always meant to see the full picture. And, this ties beautifully into the concept of alignment we've been exploring.
Oh, I see the connection. If we're truly aligned with our desires and trusting the universe to guide us, then even the challenges and setbacks, can be seen as opportunities for growth and expansion.
Yes. Obstacles become stepping stones, and setbacks become valuable lessons. It's a shift in perspective that allows us to embrace the full spectrum of the human experience, knowing that everything is ultimately working in our favor.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's not about avoiding challenges or trying to control every aspect of our lives.
Right.
It's about surrendering to the flow, trusting the process, and believing that we're being guided and supported every step of the way.
And as we cultivate this trust, we open ourselves up to a whole new level of possibility.
Okay.
We begin to see synchronicities everywhere, and our intuition becomes this powerful compass guiding us toward our highest potential.
This deep dive has truly been a journey of discovery, not just about the techniques of manifestation, but about the deeper principles that underlie them.
Right.
It's about shifting our perspective, cultivating trust, and embracing the unknown with courage and curiosity.
And you know what? That's the most beautiful part of this whole journey. It's not about achieving a specific outcome, but about the growth and transformation we experience along the way.
Yeah.
It's about becoming more aligned with our truest selves,
Hmm.
our purpose and our place in the grand tapestry of the universe.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways we want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah.
What's the essence of staying aligned through tough times?
Well, first and foremost, it's about recognizing that alignment is not a destination, but an ongoing journey.
Okay.
It's about consistently returning to that state of harmony
Hmm.
between our thoughts, emotions, and actions, using the practical tools and Zen principles that we've explored.
Mm.
Secondly, it's about understanding that challenges are inevitable, but they don't have to derail us.
Right.
They can actually serve as powerful catalysts for growth and expansion if we approach them with the right mindset.
Yeah. And finally, it's about trusting the process, believing that the universe is working with us even when it doesn't feel like it, and staying open to the signs and synchronicities that guide us toward our highest path.
That's a beautiful summary. It's about embracing the journey, knowing that we're never truly alone, and trusting that everything is unfolding as it should. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into staying aligned through tough times. We hope you've gained valuable insights and practical tools to navigate your own journey of manifestation.
Until next time, keep trusting the process. Stay aligned with your dreams and remember that the universe is always on your side.
And who knows what amazing synchronicities might be waiting just around the corner. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.